Those of you that come regularly, thank you. Thanks for supporting the channel. Thanks for coming out with the industry insights. And for those of you who are new here, hopefully this channel will give you something in regards to leadership, mentorship, coaching grassroots football, business and innovation. Today, it's day 2 for me at the Smart Manufacturing Week. I am lucky to come down here with my business, looking at new innovations and technology. However, yesterday I went to a discussion in the Leadership Lounge, which, as you can see just behind me, and I met this lovely individual. This is Rebecca Galley. And what struck with me yesterday was the confidence, first of all, in delivering her presentation, but it was the message behind the presentation and the story that I really liked. And I literally grabbed Rebecca at the end saying, I want to get you on my podcast. And first of all, I'd like to just say you are my very first ever in-person guest on my podcast. So Rebecca,
fantastic.
Welcome to CWC Age and the Age podcast. I'd like you to introduce yourself, tell my listeners who you are, where you're from, your organisation, and maybe how you got there.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, it's a lot.
I'm Rebecca Galley. I'm the CEO of Tornado Wire, which is a manufacturer of agricultural high tensile wire fencing based in Cumbria. I am originally from Manchester, although I've drifted further east as my life has progressed. And I've spent a career of 25 plus years in broadly always in manufacturing and in industrial businesses. Spent some time working in the construction industry. But my first job was an estimator in an aerospace business. Then I worked in telesales and sales on the road in the construction industry. Before joining an industrial business, my first director role. I've had a great variety of roles, but always in a sort of industrial B2B manufacturing type.
Brilliant, brilliant, absolutely. Welcome to the show. Hopefully you'll be able to share this amongst your followers on your LinkedIn, and obviously get it around the people that you know. I was absolutely flabbergasted yesterday about the story. I spent a lot of my time in the military, 23 years in the military, and we were always trying to come up with better ways of trying to get messages across to our people. And within the last 5 years of my military service, we really looked at telling stories.
Okay.
Because we all remember stories as a kid.
Absolutely.
I remember stories my mum and dad used to tell me, my nanny and papa used to tell me all the time, little stories that even today will just reflect. And the power of the message yesterday that came out from that story of you telling me about the customer journey. And I know the title was What Winning Manufacturers Know About Customer Value. And I think from the story that you told yesterday, it was only 20 minutes, 30 minutes presentation. I thought it was quite impactful because you've looked at your business as a whole through the eyes of the customer.
Yes.
I know that's really valued, but could you tell my listeners why that is very important to you as the CEO of Tornado Wire and also as a person in general?
Yeah, I mean, for Tornado, so the story of Tornado Wire is a brilliant story in its own right. The business I joined 2 years ago, and it's such a success story. Starting on a farm in Scotland in 1969 and becoming a manufacturer in the early 80s.
With a Campbell as well.
With a Campbell.
Could be a great uncle of mine. You never know.
Absolutely. Well, maybe. And then growing to what it is today, to being a market-leading manufacturer. It's a really, as I say, really great success story and a really super business to be involved with. So much is great about it. But what we Tornado have done from the beginning is focus on what the customer's problem is, rather than, we make fencing. We could focus on, we say the best fencing, and our customers would agree. But we've got to that not by focusing on the product, but by focusing on the customer. And I shared an example in the presentation yesterday about barbed wire, but there's so many examples. Like my colleague in the late 90s going to a conference with people who had problems with badgers, so it was the Badger Association, and he then listened very carefully and totally changed how people build badger fences. And it's those sorts of things that have made Tornado what it is. And you heard again yesterday some of the feedback directly from a customer about what they value, and it was taking their opinion, trying new things, and developing solutions to their problems that is what they really want. But it's so true in any business. I gave examples yesterday. Marks and Spencer's, Coca-Cola,
Yeah.
obviously huge brands, but they've got this wrong along the way, and it's cost them dearly. So when you're not in touch with your customers, you might be making the most amazing thing, the best widget ever to have landed on the planet, but if nobody values it,
Yeah.
you haven't got a business. You have to be delivering what customers really want. Say that the company we work with on understanding all of this uses the phrase "doing best what matters most,"
Yeah.
and I think that has to be key in any business, and keeping your customer in mind all the time. Because if you don't, you can end up making decisions that might be good for the business today, but could lose your customers in the long term.
Absolutely. How long have you been public speaking?
Well, arguably forever.
Yeah.
You could say forever. So I did a fair amount when I was at school.
Mm-hmm.
But I've really, since becoming managing director, which was about 7 years ago,
Yeah.
and now in a CEO role, it's much more a part of the job, being, representing the business, representing the customers internally, representing the business externally. So I have worked hard on it recently.
Now, you weren't into fences, as it suffice to say, before joining Tornado UK. I mean, it's a random thing to start loving, but do you get a love and a passion for the journey you're on? Like, it's quite hard to love a fence. I know people go around and hug trees, etc. But to love a fence, which is your product, do you really feel that? Sorry. Do you really? I am totally random.
Chuckling because I've had this conversation along my career. So I started out, as I mentioned, I worked in aerospace for a year or so. Then I was selling PPE.
Yeah.
And that was before PPE was...
Cromwell.
No. So back, this is like 2001. I worked for Protec Direct, a distributor of personal protective equipment. They're now owned by Bunzl, I believe. But at the time, they were part of SIG. So that got me into the construction industry.
Yeah.
So I was selling PPE. Then I was working with insulation, then nuts and bolts and power tools, lots of drill bits, that sort of thing. And then Cromwell, which is industrial tooling, and then hydraulic hoses.
Yeah, I've seen that on your LinkedIn.
And high tensile wire fencing. So if you want to talk about glamorous products, I am your person.
That is it. And for having the love, I mean, the organisation I work for in my real job, I absolutely love what we do, and I love the product, and I love going to work every day. I think it's quite exciting for me what I do in my role. But for somebody to come into a company as the CEO, to then adopt the principles of the company, to understand that, fences, they're not sexy, but they're an absolute requirement for certain agricultural and also defence. Fences all over the place, and to secure a property. And to get into that, I'm trying to probably get into the mindset of how you pin your colours to the mast and say, I love this company, I believe in it, I want to drive
That's
forward.
what it is. So I probably shouldn't publicly say I'm not really in love with fences, in the same way that I was never in love with hydraulic hoses.
We can edit that bit out.
No. What I do love is the business.
Yes.
I love the business. I love what it does for the customer. And, I was originally from Manchester, but I actually grew up in the Peak District. So I've always been an outdoorsy person.
Yeah.
So to have the added benefit of working in an outdoorsy business, personally really works for me. But it's about the company, it's about the people, it's about the culture of the business and the value that we deliver. To me, I know there's people running businesses who are the technical expert. I'm not the technical expert.
Yeah.
I have never been the technical expert, apart from when I was selling PPE.
Yeah.
That was probably the last time I was a product expert, and that's 20 odd years.
Yeah.
So what I am passionate about is the people and the business development, the customer.
I love it.
That's what I get excited about.
I love it. Because everything I talk about on my channel, everything I talk about in regards to business, it always comes back to one thing: people.
Yeah.
Some of my people that are listening to this are scared of innovation, they're scared of automation, they're scared of artificial intelligence.
Yep.
But actually, there's still going to be a person behind that. And I kind of get where I'm kind of going here is leadership. Strong leadership is really, really needed, I think, in the UK industry and UK manufacturing now more than ever. When you see subsidiaries coming in from external countries, taking a lot of our business away because of high repetitiveness or cheaper materials or being able to do the job cheaper elsewhere and actually import at a cheaper price. I think where we need to focus on, I don't know if you agree or not, is the solid leader, the leadership part of our businesses.
This is a really interesting conversation, and there's a lot of, I don't know if there's a lot of published work specifically about middle management, but it's actually the immediate line management and middle management who have the biggest impact on the employee experience of work. And they're the people who are often, I'm trying to find the right way of saying this because I don't want to give any disrespect to anybody.
Accidental management?
Yeah, you get promoted because you're the best electrician or the best salesperson or the best whatever your technical job is. And then suddenly you're in a completely different job.
Yep.
And I mean, I talk a lot on my LinkedIn about what it's like to be a new manager and the mistakes people make and how to overcome them. And I do think that group of people deserve more support. It's probably one of the only jobs where you're just given the keys and told to get on with it. And it has those people have such a big impact on the employee experience. And in this age of skills gap and the nature of the workforce, giving your employees a good experience at work is the only way to have good employee retention.
Yeah.
So for me, we've at Tornado spent a lot of time, and in businesses I've worked in before, spent a lot of time developing the leadership, so that the leaders should be the guardians of the culture. The managers should be empowered, but also properly trained to do the job that we're expecting them to do.
Yeah, I see that a lot. I'm a fellow of the Charter Management Institute. I went through all of their progressional diplomas into a business management degree with the Charter Management Institute as well. And I absolutely I mean, it's not a shy thing to say that probably I would put a number of 70% to 80% of the UK's managerial step in that middle management that have no formal training as a manager.
It's shocking.
It is shocking.
It's shocking. And then we wonder why there's so many poor employee experiences and cases that reach the press and everything. I really think it's such an important topic.
No, I think you're right. And change management as well, teaching our management how to deal with change and to deliver that change as well as.
And that's really hard. And you know, I've worked in really big businesses and I really enjoy where I am now, which is a medium-sized enterprise.
Yeah.
Obviously, as the leader, I have a different perspective on things. But I've been that middle manager tasked with delivering something from on high without necessarily fully comprehending or buying into it myself. And then I have to make it happen, whatever it is. That's hard.
Yeah.
And leadership needs to respect that. But having said all of that, you know, the pace of change and the fact that change is going to come, you know, it's coming and it's coming faster than ever. And to be able to empower and upskill your managers to deliver all of that is critical.
I love it. I love it.
You can bring in, we're in a room full of 100 AI solutions to all of my business problems, but I got into a debate yesterday because it's all irrelevant if we don't implement it well and the people who have to operate it don't want it or understand it. It's all a waste of money, isn't it?
I did a quick YouTube video yesterday in regards to the map. And I know it is a smart manufacturing engineering show. And I opened the map up and showed all the smart individuals that are here delivering products for, you know, to get new business. I then focused on the designers and engineers element, and there was like 12 stands for them, and it was like, wow, is there something wrong here in the UK where we've so many good designers and engineers, but nobody's here to try and showcase, which I get it's smart. Taking you back a little bit to your LinkedIn.
Oh yeah.
I love this. This is like we rehearsed this, and literally we haven't rehearsed this. I met her yesterday, and we thought we'd just hook up today and do it. I loved the diverseness of your career path over the last, I think it was about 12 years. You were on the West Midlands Advisory Board as a member for MEC UK. Absolutely exciting that you spent 6 years in that. You've been a president of what was the president of?
So this was in my former role when I was managing director of a business called Hydroscan, which was into hydraulics. I was the president of the British Fluid Power Association, which was just a fantastic experience.
Brilliant.
The association supporting all the membership, and we went through a lot together because it was the COVID time.
Yeah.
The association did great work supporting the membership and communicating through that really difficult period.
Brilliant.
So yeah, that was a thing I got involved with.
And you've been an ops director.
Yep.
Was that in Cromwell?
That was in Cromwell.
Cromwell. You know, so you've had such really high-powered jobs. And another thing which really interests me, my last commanding officer when I left the British Army was a female.
Okay.
My last brigadier, who was the first ever female brigadier to command a military police brigade. But yeah, so I think I'm more keen now on looking at females in power more than what I was when I was, 25-year-old male in the army in a really male-dominated land. But over the last 15 years, I've seen so many good people come into power, not just because of what sex they are, but actually what they bring to the party. And the UK is now recognising more than ever that there's a lot more to give.
We could talk for hours on this one.
I know. My battery might run out. But...
Yeah, maybe. You're right, of course. I'm not going to disagree with anything you've said. And I go back to there's a skills gap in manufacturing and engineering, and there's a massively underrepresented group. In fact, there's more than one massively underrepresented group. Women is only one of those groups of people who could give more to the sector. There's so many reasons why it's difficult, and some of them are just self-perpetuating within organisations, and some of them go much broader. There's the societal, structural things.
Yeah.
Who's the child care provider? Who's the breadwinner? We can talk about how modern we are, and I'm in a very sort of modern arrangement in this way, if you like, but most people aren't.
Yeah, got it.
There's real risks to, I travel a lot with work, and I'm often, yesterday I was in the maintenance theatre and I was the only woman in the room, but I'm often the only woman at a service station early in the morning.
Yeah.
Or even late at night is worse. There's safety issues to being a woman travelling on your own, if you're a woman in a van or whatever. Mm. And I'm not saying that's a reason not to do it, but these are some of the issues that just don't get talked about.
Some of the compounding factors that could stop women from pushing themselves more. Love it. I think we could even do that in another podcast. I'll come up and we'll take on about equality in the workforce. I love it. And I absolutely applaud you. And I know you will have not worked hard to get to where you are. And I
work very hard.
And I applaud that. And I do. And I applaud anyone that works hard. A message from me when I go on the shop floor, the Gemba, when I'm out on the Gemba walking with people, looking at new ways of working in our factory and looking at new ways of trying to make lives easier. One of the things I leave the employee with is, I want you to come to work happy. I want you to wake up in the morning thinking, I'm going to work. And I know not everybody gets excited about going to work, but we spend probably 3/4 of our adult life in work. And when I'm doing these little changes in the change management piece in my organisation, I always leave them with, listen, I want you to come to work safe. Yep. I want you to have a safe day and I want you to enjoy it.
Yep.
But I want you to put an honest shift in when you're here and feel proud of what you've done. So
that's all people want.
Exactly.
So the huge majority of people, I'd love to say all people, but the huge majority of people do not wake up and think, I'm going to do a bad day's work today. I'm going to hang around doing nothing today. People want to feel valued. They want to do something meaningful. People work because they've got bills to pay and families to support. But if they can, exactly as you say, know that they're safe, know that what they're doing is worthwhile in some way, then whether they skip down the road to the factory, I don't know. But if they can at least get up and not think, oh God, I've got to go and do this again, then we're winning, aren't we?
Yeah,
but it's hard to get to that.
It is. I sing every way in my car. I do podcast rehearsals. I do meme rehearsals. I do little videos. I'm generally so happy to go to work every day. I think it's because I feel valued in what I do.
Exactly.
My general manager values the work I do, and that makes me even more determined to do better for my organisation and company. Can I ask you a couple of questions then, and then we'll wrap it up? I genuinely, I'd love this episode. Do leaders CEOs, MDs, chief executives, etc., do you need to get out more into where the work is done, which I call the Gemba in part of my lean strategy?
I make a point personally of being on the shop floor and talking, listening to, not talking to, listening to
Love it.
the team, how they are, what's going on in their lives outside work, what that thing is they're doing operationally, how they're finding the latest change, whether they've heard the latest briefing. I want to know how they are. Are they informed? Are they feeling valued?
Brilliant.
I don't tend to get massively involved in like the technical operational detail. That we've got a super team of people who are all over.
And you trust that team to do that, so you can.
Of course.
There you go. There's
So I want to start telling them how to make fencing.
brilliant.
I love being on the factory floor. It's the heartbeat of the business.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think going back full circle to the presentation yesterday, it's important that CEOs, MDs, leaders also spend time with customers. So there's the shop floor coal face, but there's the front end as well.
Yeah.
And understanding, hearing directly from customers as well as through surveys and everything. And it's our trade show season, so I'll get to spend time listening to a lot of customers as well, and listen to the sales team so that I know what's going on in their world. I think, again, I've worked in big businesses and I've seen the ivory tower syndrome where somebody sits removed from the business and has lost touch with the customer. I think the further distance from the customer or factory, both ways around it works, right? But the further the distance from the customer to the leader, the less customer value there is, potentially. I mean, there are some huge businesses who do this brilliantly, but I've seen when it doesn't work, and I don't want to be that leader.
That is a really good takeaway. The further you are disjointed from the customer, the more risky it is as a business owner I love it. Love it. Do you have a positive role model, Random?
Do I have a positive
Do you have a positive role model?
Loads of positive role models.
Could you give me one and talk about why they're a positive role model?
Oh, right now, I work for a group of shareholders. It's a Swedish company who acquired Tornado Wire 4 years ago. They have employed me to run the business on their behalf. Our chairman and the UK CEO from Stores Kogan are really positive role models. They're professional, enthusiastic, down-to-earth, supportive people. There's two off the top of my head.
Brilliant.
And I've had many throughout my career. Positive role models, people who've put me forward. Yeah, I've been very lucky in that way.
Love it. Last couple of questions. Do you have a positive leadership story that really resonates with you and like a positive leadership? Either you've done it.
Loads.
Loads. There we go.
But what really excites me is seeing people in an organization achieve things that they want, but also even better is seeing people achieve things they didn't know they could. That's my absolute favorite thing about leadership.
Yeah.
It's the biggest privilege of the job is to develop other people.
Yeah.
And I appreciate, I could go on forever, but I'm just really proud that in a number of different roles, when I've left, the person who has been working with me has taken over.
Brilliant.
And nothing is more pleasing than seeing other people developing in a position.
Smashing. Love it. Do you have a negative leadership story?
Again, how long have you got?
How long as you want. Something that's maybe been really negative towards you or you've seen towards somebody else. I mean, I've seen thousands in my military career of negative leadership stories, but don't put anybody under the bus here, by the way. Don't name anyone.
No, I do. Personally, so the worst thing that happened to me personally was that I think personally the worst one for me, and I know not everyone always has the choice because, again, we work to pay the bills and all of that, but was to be made responsible for a huge piece of work and then not be supported by the leadership team. So I was expected to deliver a thing, but it was almost like swimming against the tide. And I actually, in the end, confronted the most senior person to say, you have tasked me with this. Where is this?
Yeah.
you're continually challenging me, telling me it's not going well or whatever, giving me negative feedback, I've had no support.
No support.
And they did acknowledge that that probably was the case. But that's the worst thing. Not setting someone out to do something and then making it more difficult for them.
I would love to just thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on. One, for coming on. You didn't know me until 5 minutes before your presentation when I saw you with your cards yesterday rehearsing. And then I thought, do you know what, Chris? Do you know what would be a great thing to do? Go up and disrupt that woman's rehearsal plan. Grab her and say, hey, I do a podcast. You want to come on my podcast tomorrow and we'll get a quick interview, blah, blah, blah. And much to my surprise, she said yes. I've really enjoyed the conversation. I really enjoyed genuinely really enjoyed the story that you told yesterday. But the way you carried yourself, the way you told a story from start to finish, the cardboard cutout you brought of Pete, one of your customers, that really gets people. And I know there wasn't that many people here. And do you know what's really saddened me as a leader and as a guy who's running a podcast for leadership and coaching and mentoring and coaching grassroots? But do you know what really saddened me is the lack of people that are coming to the leadership stand. And I think really smarter manufacturing, maybe next year, you need to have a look at trying to bolster this stand, because without leaders and without people as enthusiastic as Rebecca, our industry won't survive the next 10, 20 years. Because although the automation is coming and although the AI is coming, and I'm doing heavily research into AI and automation myself for my own organization, I think one of the problems is there's always going to be a leader. And if there's people not stood on that stage next year and that packed with people eager to come and listen to stories such as Rebecca's, and hopefully you might come back next year, but walking around all the other techie type things, they're rammed. Let's get behind it, people. Let's get this message of you can't be anything without that leadership journey, and you need to understand. And Rebecca carried it out brilliantly in the middle of the podcast in regards to saying the middle management is somewhere where I aim to aspire to help more in my organization. Really does need that more training and ability and empowerment to go out and get after it. Rebecca, thank you very much for coming on. This is CWC Age this is CWC Age I can't even get it out, on YouTube, and I don't edit these bits because I think they're funny anyway. And it's CWC Age on any good Spotify, any good platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from. Like and subscribe. And if you think this episode has helped you or you would like to reach out, please reach out at chris@cwcage.com, or you can go onto my links in my YouTube and my podcast to get any further information. If you would like to get in touch with Rebecca in regards to future business aspirations, or you need a fence for your next farming project, I have a few farmers on here, reach out to Tornado UK. I think they've got an absolutely fantastic product. They've got a fantastic small team, and they're really, really revolutionising the way fencing's been done. Everybody, keep listening, keep learning, and strive for greatness. Thank you.